What if the whole world was waiting to watch you fall, and then you didn't? Shawn "Diddy" Combs just walked out of court with a verdict nobody saw coming. For weeks, people whispered behind screens, headlines painted him guilty before a single word was read, and haters waited to celebrate his downfall. But today, the jury flipped the script. Sure, a couple guilty counts still hang heavy, but that massive racketeering charge? Gone. The explosive accusations tied to Cassandra Ventura? Shut down. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. It's a reminder that sometimes the crowd doesn't get the ending they were promised. So how did we get here? How did Diddy's trial twist overnight? And what secrets are still clawing their way to the surface? Buckle up. This story is far from over. It started like any other tense morning in Lower Manhattan. After 14 grueling hours of deliberation over 2 days, the jury had looked deadlocked. They'd reached unanimous decisions on 4 out of 5 charges, but that first count, the big one, the racketeering conspiracy, had them stuck. All night, reporters and legal experts whispered the same thing. This could drag on for days. Some even bet on a hung jury. But just an hour after walking back into the jury room, they stunned everyone. Phones buzzed. Reporters leapt from benches. A note from the jury. "We have reached a verdict on all counts." The race back into the courtroom began. And so did the real drama. At the heart of it all was racketeering conspiracy, the monster charge that could have swallowed Diddy's empire whole. Prosecutors had painted a picture straight out of a crime drama, an alleged secret network, hidden parties, hush money, and threats to keep everyone silent. If the jury found him guilty of orchestrating it all, Diddy could have faced decades, maybe life. But when the foreperson rose and read the words "not guilty," the courtroom froze. Gasps slipped through lips pressed tight. After weeks of lurid details and cryptic witness statements, the one count that could have brought everything crashing down just evaporated. But that wasn't even the biggest twist. Then came Cassandra Ventura, known to the world as Cassie. For years, rumors tied her to Diddy's private life in ways no tabloid could quite prove. The trial dragged every hidden corner of that relationship into the harsh light of day. Witnesses spoke of lavish trips, encrypted messages, money flowing through shadowy channels, all pointing to dark allegations. Yet when the foreperson read her name, it came with the same verdict. Not guilty. Not guilty of exploiting Cassie. Not guilty of sex trafficking. The prosecutor's jaws clenched. Diddy's lawyers didn't even flinch. They'd built their defense on suggesting she'd been a willing partner, and the jury somehow bought it. But behind the courtroom doors, Cassie wasn't finished. Whispers say she's already lining up her own civil case, her own version of the story. A tell-all, a chance to speak without a cross-examining lawyer trying to rip every word apart. If you think this chapter's over, think again. And just when it looked like Diddy might walk away untouched, the hammer dropped. Not once, but twice. Transportation for prostitution, once linked to Cassie's allegations. Another tied to a woman only known as Jane. Not guilty on the major counts, but guilty on these quiet, cold charges that still come with real steel bars at the end of the tunnel. Some in the courtroom didn't even catch it at first. The word slipped out fast, but the weight was huge. Each count, up to 10 years. Combined, enough to turn a smirk into a plea deal, or worse. And outside the courtroom, the internet caught fire. How could a man dodge racketeering but get snared by transporting people for hidden deals? Everyone had theories. Nobody had answers. Inside that marble courtroom, you could almost hear hearts pounding. Diddy sat stone still, 8 lawyers flanking him like a human fortress. His mother, eyes red, hands clenched. His sister held her breath. When the "not guilty" rang out on the biggest counts, he glanced back, nodded once, and gave a tiny, careful smile. But when the guilty counts landed, that smile froze halfway. Reporters scribbled furiously. Some glanced at each other, mouths half open. A moment later, the room exhaled, but the questions started swirling. What does this mean? Could he walk out free? Could he cut a deal? Or was prison still waiting just down the hall? Here's what happens now. Diddy's not going anywhere tonight. He's not strutting out of that courthouse to pop champagne on some rooftop lounge. Not this time. A sentencing hearing looms in the next 30 to 60 days. Federal probation officers will dig through every detail of his life. His team will beg for leniency, talk up community service and donations, point to decades in music history. Prosecutors will push back, determined to make an example out of him, even if they missed the bigger charges. The rumor mill is already spinning. Will Diddy flip on bigger names? Will he barter secrets for less time? Who else might suddenly feel that knock on the door at dawn? This game isn't over. It might just be starting. But beyond the courtroom, the message is chilling. For Diddy's inner circle and for everyone who thought secrets stayed buried if you had enough money to keep them buried. If Diddy can stand trial on charges like these, who's really safe? What if old tapes leak? What if paid-off witnesses change their minds? What if people who once signed NDAs decide they've had enough? The entertainment world is watching this verdict like a warning shot. The rumors, the conspiracies, the whispered lists of who's next, it's all out in the open now. And if you thought the final word was read when that four-person stood up, you haven't been paying attention. Cameras turned away from the courtroom, another rumor slipped out. A rumor that someone else might step forward. An unnamed witness, buried deep in sealed court files, is said to hold recordings that never made it to trial. Some say it's a former employee. Others swear it's an old friend who saw too much behind those locked penthouse doors. If they talk now, if they decide to flip, Diddy's new legal nightmare could make this trial look like a warm-up round. The streets are buzzing, the blogs are digging. Nobody wants to be the next name on that subpoena list, but the truth? It's already leaking. And if there's one thing we've learned about Diddy's secrets, they never stay hidden forever. Of course, when you're worth millions, maybe billions, the first thing people ask is, can you just buy your way out? For decades, Diddy's money made problems vanish. Settlements, NDAs, surprise donations to charity at just the right moment. But this time it's different. Federal prison doesn't care how many hit singles you produced or how many fancy lawyers you can afford. Those two guilty counts mean real time, not just fines and headlines. Behind closed doors, his team is scrambling to work the system, lean on connections, whisper to the right ears. But if the prosecution wants a trophy, they're not going to settle for a check. They want to sell. It's a reminder to every big name watching this unfold. When the law comes knocking, your bank balance can't slam the door shut forever. But outside the courtroom, another trial is raging, one Diddy can't control. Fans are split. Some say this was all a smear job, payback for secrets he knew about bigger fish. Others say the guilty verdicts prove what they've whispered about for years, that the king of the bad boy empire built his throne on the backs of people who never stood a chance. Online, hashtags trend for hours, then vanish under new headlines. But the damage is done. Sponsors pull back. Collaborators stay silent. Even old friends in the industry keep their distance, eyes glued to the news, wondering if their own names are buried in some sealed file. One thing's clear, Diddy's story is no longer just about him. It's about what happens when the spotlight swings away from the stage and shows the world who's really pulling the strings in the shadows. So as the courtroom doors close and the cameras roll onto the next scandal, remember this. One verdict didn't solve anything. It cracked something open, something that money, fame, and old threats can't seal up this time. And if you think the story ends with Diddy, just wait. The list is long, the secret's deeper than anyone wants to admit, and the next name could drop any second. Stay tuned, stay curious, and never forget, in this game, the truth doesn't stay buried. Behind closed doors, the real game is already in motion. Diddy's legal team didn't wait for the ink on the verdict to dry. They're working every angle to protect what's left of his empire. Brand managers, spin doctors, private meetings with old allies who suddenly went quiet when the indictments hit. Everyone's back at the table now, deciding who stays loyal and who quietly slips out the back door. But it's not just about lawyers and PR teams. This verdict sparked a war behind the scenes. Industry insiders are whispering about contracts getting shredded, unreleased projects suddenly postponed, and hush money offers growing bigger by the day to keep old secrets buried. For Diddy, staying on top now means keeping people quiet and praying nobody decides that speaking out pays more than silence. And in the middle of all this chaos, there's one question that won't go away. What if there's more? What if this trial wasn't the end but just the opening crack in a dam that's been straining for years? Every time a verdict lands, another rumor pops up. Hidden footage, sealed depositions, old partners who know exactly where the bodies are buried. The jury may have said not guilty on the big charges, but the streets are convinced that somebody, somewhere, has more dirt ready to drop. So people keep watching, waiting, scrolling through leaks at 2 a.m., screenshotting cryptic tweets from insiders, connecting dots that maybe were never supposed to connect. Because if this circus has proven anything, it's this. Sometimes the court says case closed, but the real story is only just beginning. So here we are. Not guilty where it mattered most, guilty where it still hurts, and a legacy hanging by threads that get thinner every time another secret slides into the light. If you think this ends with Diddy, think again. This trial might be over, but the real show? It's just getting started.